What's going on, guys? Rounded TikTak here, and we got a special video for you today. Today is the top 5 community-based pistols. I just wanted to make a quick thank you to Cindy, who did all these calculations for us. Thank you so much, Cindy. Really appreciate it. We're gonna get into the top 5 pistols. Now, there is a certain thing that I did. I made like a list system. We're gonna go into that first before we go into the thing. However, if I do disagree, I will make that clear, but you're always gonna get at least a community-based list first. So with all that out of the way, no long preamble or anything like that, let's jump right into this. If I'm being honest, I've been at this part of the video for about 2 hours now. There are so many ways that I can bring you the information that I just don't know which one to do, but I think I finally got it. I could have brought you the information that you guys voted on, the top 5 that the community thinks is the best, and leave it like that. I could negate all of that information and just give you what I think is the top 5 best pistols. Another way I could have done it is take the top 2 pistols and make a category for them: single target damage, AoE damage, etc. However, that bracket system just would have been too many pistols, and I feel like it wouldn't be unique enough. So I came up with a list, a point system, as it were. Now, the point system is going to be the following. The first one is going to be DPS. DPS stands for damage per second in this case, and that is how much damage the gun can do in kind of either a very long time frame or a very short time frame, usually to empty the magazine. That's DPS. Number 2 is going to be damage per shot. That differs from DPS as it's usually a smaller magazine gun, the Jax Revenge you can think of, where it does a very high single shot gun, and that number is very high. Number 3 is going to be AoE DPS. That is 2 things that's wrapped up into one. You can think of it as the Freedom's Herald, where it's 1 bullet does damage to multiple enemies, or you can think of it as, does the gun have enough magazine size to quickly kill enough enemies? Again, Jax Revenge marks low on this. Next up is going to be mini bosses. How viable is the gun for quickly and efficiently killing a mini boss? General use is the next category, and that is how comfortable can you feel running around with this gun just in general gameplay, killing things before you get to the objective, before you find out what kind of storm you're fighting or something like that, and you switch around your guns. The last one, number 6, is utility, and this is not a ranking score. This is just going to be a yes or no. It gets a yes if it has a unique perk like gumdrops on the Ginger Blaster, and it gets a no if it's just headshot explosions, because you can technically get that on any gun. But that is how we're going to do this. I'm going to take your community list, put it and rank them in 6 of these categories, and we're going to see which one comes out on top. Real quick, the build we're using, even though this isn't necessary, make it count on Beetle Jess, Preemptive Strike, Hip Shot, 6-shooter, Locked and Reloaded, In a Pinch, and Blaze of Glory. I know I'm going to get asked. I'm not necessarily saying it's the best. That's not the point. This is just what I used to get all the footage, if you guys are curious. The number 5 is the Whisper 45. This gun has been out for a while and surprisingly still ranks high on the list. The community voted and 45 votes went for the Whisper 45, landing it in 5th place. And I don't have an argument here. I did have an argument thinking that the Basilisk would outdo it, but alas, they do not. And yes, I just used the word alas. The Basilisk does become very, very close though, so if you do not have a Whisper and you want something similar, the Basilisk is a great replacement. Now, why is this pistol so good? Well, mainly because of fast fire rate, decent damage per second, and a higher base crit chance than most any other gun. Sitting at 20%, it adds up quickly, especially since the best pistol character in the game right now gives you 225 extra crit damage. But let's put it on the scale. I'm going to give it a 6 on DPS. At level 130, it has 69,000 damage per second. The damage per shot is again average, nothing really to rave about here. The AoE DPS is decent with a fire rate that keeps up the gun, the decent mag size, and allows you to switch and kill multiple targets pretty quickly. It's actually pretty good for a mini boss killer, as one, if you were playing when it came out, you can get multiples of them and make them any element you want, allowing for tougher mini bosses to really get melted down if they're an element. But regardless of that, the fast fire rate, the decent damage per shot, and the higher base crit chance allows this to really melt down mini bosses. The general use, it also scores slightly above average for the same reasons. It's just a decent gun. It doesn't matter what you're fighting, it will excel at that. Whether it's regular enemies, a mist monster you might find while exploring the map, it does everything a little better than most other pistols. That's the Whisper 45 coming in at the 5th spot. I'm gonna have to call an audible here, guys. Now, your guns are still in order and still correct. I just combined number 3 and 4 so I can add this one in here because I feel like it deserves a spot. There are 3 main AoE pistols in the game, and that is the Zap Zap, the Tiny Instrument of Death, and the Freedom's Herald. And the Freedom Herald is probably the most underrated gun in the entire game, but let's talk about it real quick and why it has made the list. It's literally like carrying around a cheap version of a rocket launcher. Each shell hits for around 400k on max level and has a less than 1 second reload speed. If you combine that with In a Pinch, it's literally 0.25 seconds. It's insane. At 400k in an AoE range with no damage drop off, this gun is not to be underestimated, and I feel like out of the 3 AoE pistols in the game, this one takes the spot. I wanted to bring it to your attention so you guys might not pass it up the next time you see it. The OGs and the people who've been playing this game for a long time know how good this pistol is, so if you get one, don't be upset, level it up. But let's put it on the ranking system and see where it lands. The DPS is a lot higher than you would think. On paper, at level 130, it's sitting at 149,000 damage per second, which is a lot higher than most people would think. It's higher than I thought as well. However, there still is a reload animation between each shot, and that hurts its chances here. The second one, damage per shot, we're also going to rank as a 7. It does hit hard, but there are pistols that hit harder. AoE DPS, we're going to give it a hard 8 here. Now, you could use other weapons, but because of the faster reload, I feel like the utility and what it brings on AoE DPS is probably the best of the bunch. Mini boss, it fails here. We're going to give it a 3 because you're not, let's be honest, use this in a, general situation fighting a mini boss. General use, we're actually also going to give it a 4 here. You're not going to run around and use this in every situation. Yes, it gains points because it does a lot of AoE damage, so if you find an encampment or something while you're exploring the map, it's great there. However, it loses major points because it explodes propanes and you can't use it in every single instance. The utility is 0. It doesn't bring us anything interesting, so that gives us a total score of 29 out of 50. Check out the Freedom's Herald, guys. It's a lot better than you think. So originally the Ginger Blaster was number 4 and the last word was number 3, with the Ginger Blaster having 50 votes and the last word having 55. However, I decided to take out that spot because the guns are so similar and just add them into the number 3 spot. So let's take a look at exactly why these guns are so similar. The base damage is barely perceivable. They're basically the same here. The magazine size on the last word is smaller, which is technically a negative thing because magazine size versus reload speed, 90% of the time magazine size wins. The range, that goes to the last word, but that's not too big of a deal. The reload time again goes to the last word, but again not that big of a deal because of in a pinch, which, like I keep saying, is one of the best perks in the game. So we really have to compare these guns' special uses to make it an argument for which one is better, and I'm still gonna tell you which one I feel is technically slightly better. So let's throw it on our little sheet here. First up, the last word's DPS is great. It has an 8, but there's a reason for that, and the reason being is that if you aim down sights, right click or whatever it may be, left trigger on Xbox, you will lose a lot of DPS. It shoots a lot slower, so it doesn't get max scored here, even though it's one of the best in the game. Damage per shot, we're gonna give it an 8. There are pistols that hit harder, but there's usually a drawback somewhere else. AoE DPS, we're gonna give it a 5, which scores pretty high for a non-AoE pistol. The reason is headshot eliminations cause a small explosion, so it needs to get some points here. Also remember that the last word and the Ginger Blaster both kind of took the Whisper off the last list number 2 spot because they are very similar in what they do. Mini boss, it's gonna get a 10 here. Now, the reason it does is because A, it can roll any element, which is a plus, but it also, when you're fighting a mini boss, you usually right up in front of its face trying to repair the walls, have it not destroy your base. So hip firing, which is a plus on the last word, not a drawback, is really helpful here. General use, we're gonna give it a 9. There's no real bad thing about this gun. It's good for encampments, it's good for mini bosses, it's good for tunnel defenses. You can throw it on a defender, it doesn't matter. We're gonna give it a 9 here, and it's an all-around, almost perfect pistol. And that leaves it at a 40 out of 50 for the score. But now let's talk about the Ginger Blaster, the pistol that is basically the brother or sister of the last word. However, it does a couple of things a little different. DPS is, we're gonna give it a 9.5. The reason it's a little higher is because if you aim down sights and get better accuracy, you're not gonna lose out on DPS. Damage per shot, because it's locked to physical, is a little bit higher, but it's not perfect scores because it's locked to physical. It's a good thing and a bad thing. AoE DPS, it loses to the last word here at sitting at a 3. You can kill multiple targets in one clip, that's fine, but it doesn't have that explosion headshot perk. Mini boss, we're gonna give it a 9.5. Again, most mini bosses have some sort of element to them, so this gun being locked to physical is technically a bad thing. However, you can aim down sights with it, so that's why it's a 9.5. General use is gonna get a 9 here. Again, as similar to the last word, it can really take care of almost every single situation. But something that should be mentioned here is it does have a utility, and one of the best in the game. Killing enemies drops healing gumdrops that heal you or any teammate that happens to pick them up. And I believe that is very important here. With both guns basically being exactly the same and both having negatives and pros to them, I'm gonna have to give it to the Ginger Blaster, but I mean slightly. Super slightly. The healing gumdrops, you put it on a defender, throw them the Ginger Blaster, and they just end up healing you and the entire team. It's really cool. Any hard kind of missions or anything like that, it really works well in. You're running around the map, you need a heal, and boom, bing, bang, you got your heal. It's very useful in many situations. Everything else about the guns are basically the same. They each have good things and bad things, and to be honest, it's almost too close to call, but if I had to pick one, because of the utility that the Ginger Blaster gives you, I have to give it to the Ginger Blaster, but only slightly. Number 2 is the Founders Revolt, whatever it may be called. With 78 votes, you guys chose the Founders Revolt as number 2. Now, does it still hold up? Originally, on my first list, this was the best pistol in the game, but things have changed. The Last Word didn't exist. The Ginger Blaster didn't exist. The Jax Revenge didn't exist. However, regardless of all of that, this gun still shines and does amazing in comparison to almost every other gun in the game. So let's throw it on the list and check it out where it falls today. Now, originally, the Founders Revolt bullet chain effect, because yes, it has utility, and yes, it has a unique 6th perk of where it chains a bullet to the next enemy, and with a fire rate of almost 8, it does that very quickly. That chained bullet used to hit a headshot, guaranteed, didn't matter what, it was headshot damage. It no longer does that, and there is an entire Reddit post breaking it down, which I will link in the description. But what it basically does now is it takes all of the modifiers that you have on your gun and reapplies them in its own special formula onto the enemy that the bullet chained onto. Does that make sense? No? Good, because it doesn't make sense to me either, but that's what it does. Like I said, there is a Reddit post about it. I will link it in the description. So its DPS technically is a score of 10, but it's different. Its DPS per single target is not that strong. But the bullet chain effect really is. So if you are actually fighting a mini boss and there's enemies next to the mini boss, it's better to shoot the smaller enemies and have the bullet chain effect hit the mini boss. It's still going to get a 10 here because it can affect so many enemies at once that it's kind of nuts. The damage per shot is going to be a 6. It really doesn't hit that hard per bullet. It really doesn't. In fact, it's kind of lacking in that area. But if it did anything different, it would be kind of very OP. AoE DPS, it's going to get a perfect score as well. There is a large magazine to work with here. You can change it to any element you want, and it just kills everything in sight. It really shines in encampment missions, but besides that, you can always shoot the bigger target and it will kill everything around you while simultaneously damaging the bigger target or smashers or mini boss. A mini boss, it's going to get a 6. Again, not the best gun for trying to burn down big tanky targets. Its general use is gonna get another perfect score here with a 10. This gun is just gross in general use. It really is. You can use it in every single situation. You can kill the smashers rather quickly. You can kill encampments or anything you might find across the map. Clear out entire areas in split seconds. It's kind of crazy. If you don't have one, try to get one. They're definitely worth it. The Founders Revolt still holds up pretty well. You guys picked it, the #1 pistol in the game, and although I have a couple of disagreements, I'm gonna let it go. With 85 mentions, it is the brand new Jax Revenge, and I can see why you guys like this gun so much. I mean, it really does a lot of crazy things. Let's talk about it. DPS, we're gonna give it a 10. And the reason why, even though it's a single shot gun, is in a pinch, plus already a shorter kind of reload speed on it at 1.7 seconds without in a pinch, it still does a ton of damage. Headshots alone, not counting crits, on a fully maxed out one, does 303,000 damage per shot. So even if it's only one shot plus the 1 second reload, that'll give you 300 DPS regardless. Damage per shot, we're actually going to go off the charts here and hit it with an 11. It is the hardest hitting gun in the entire game, period. There's nothing in the game currently that hits as hard as the Jax Revenge. Using a pistol loadout, you're going to be hitting, I think the record I have so far is 4.6 million, which is just kind of insane, so I gave it an extra point. AoE DPS, the gun does pierce, so it's going to go slightly in the medium range above average. Mini boss, even though it's not the best for mini bosses and the Ginger Blaster and Last Word are better in this category, it's not bad. You wouldn't be wrong for using this on a mini boss. You would chunk them pretty decently as long as you have in a clip in your build. This gun is perfect in almost every scenario. General use, it's gonna get an 8 here for the same reason. 95% of the time, you're gonna die to blasters running around the map and exploring and doing encampments, and this gun is made specifically for them. You can have it on your 3 slots, switch to it real quick, take a pop shot at a blaster, and guess what? There is no chance that it's gonna live. Even if it's a non-headshot, non-crit, it's still going to one-shot them. And that cannot be understated. This gun is insane. I cannot wait for harder content to see how it actually stacks up, because currently it kills everything. With all of this in consideration, the Jax Revenge is the best pistol in the game. I think we can all admit that this video has gone on long enough. I don't really like to make videos this length, but sometimes there's just too much information to not go over everything, and I want to be thorough. I think I nailed it pretty well, but now it's time for you guys to let me know what you think. Hop down in the comments section and let me know if you guys think I got it right. Hit me with your arguments, whether I got it wrong, incorrect, if you think I forgot something. I tried to figure out a way to make this fair and to bring you the information that you guys gave me. I want to say thank you once again to the people who helped me make this video, and thanks to you guys for participating in the polls down in the comments section. So please, let me know what you guys think. And if you haven't been by the stream yet, just look at all this great content that you're missing out on. Of course he did. Well... If you guys are sick of leechers and AFKers, there's a Discord link in the description below. I will also place my Jax Revenge review that I did a couple of weeks ago on the thumbnail screen, the end screen as well. So you guys can check all of that information out. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this long, you support the channel, thank you from the bottom of my heart. I really, really do appreciate it. I'll see you guys on the next one. TikTak out.